What's up, NBA fan? What's up, all sports fans? This your boy JB, host of the Behind the Bench Podcast Network and channel. Giving a shout out to the rest of the crew: Shy, Kelvin, Jermaine, KB Film Room, Big Dog Talk Sports. That's right, that's right. For everyone who's tuning in, we thank you for supporting Behind the Bench, subscribing to that channel, and helping to make this show the best that it can be. Well, may as well get right down to it, man. The new NBA season is right on the horizon. It will kick off next week, and I'm referring to the 2024-2025 NBA campaign. And I've been listening to and watching a lot of thoughts and conversations being brought up about this young man in this picture that was drafted by the Los Angeles Lakers. And this is 2024. And I keep saying that, number one, I'll be glad when all this is over. As a lifelong fan of this franchise that goes back to the 1980s, let's just say to the 1980s, when the Showtime era really took off and gained steam, where the Los Angeles Lakers were going to become the team of that decade, winning 5 championships, which included the first repeat in 19 years when we went back to back in 1988. First time an NBA team achieved that feat since 1969, when the Boston Celtics did it during what proved to be Bill Russell's final championship. So I look at this whole picture, man, and it feels like it's beyond the Twilight Zone, man. It's beyond the Twilight Zone. And it feels like the sunken place. That's what it feels like, the sunken place. And when you go this route, as I've been alluding to time and time again, when you go this route and when you sell yourself short, when you really don't believe, then you find yourself caught up in a situation where you have to accept the unacceptable to justify why you went down this path to begin with. And the person who led this franchise to venture down this path, he has made sure that there would be no stone left unturned. Meaning, when you look back on it, his mindset is, whatever you had here before, I'm getting rid of all of it. Players, coaches, even the history of what made this franchise great. What created the reality that created the realization, I should say, a vision that was spearheaded by the late owner, Dr. Jerry Buss, that led to this organization winning 10 championships from 1980 up until 2010. That's an average of 1 championship every 3 years. And the Lakers became the supreme franchise in all of team sports in the modern era since 1980. And we've been reduced to a situation where essentially you're settling. You have to resort to, I don't want to call it a gimmick. I don't think that's the proper word. I believe what's going on is the Laker brass has been resolute in accepting the fact that the future was already mortgaged off when all this started. So now they have been resorted to catering to this guy's every whim, but in a desperate attempt to justify this move, they hope to profit from it. You hear the talks. Oh man, they're going to cash in, by making history. The first father and son duo in the NBA. Even though everybody knows it, whether they was for this move or against it, deep down in their heart, deep down in the pit of their soul, they know this is manufactured. And they know deep down that this is insanity that's going on. And deep down, they know that the son of this man, who I'm referring to as the eye of the hurricane, I will not mention his name. Because I want the Lakers to gain control of their franchise, regain control of their franchise. They lost it the day that they decided to bring this individual and associate with him 6 years ago. All control was given up. All control was relinquished. Because that's how he operates. But this is all manufactured. It's not authentic. It's not real. And therefore, it's not going to profit the way a lot of supporters of this is trying to convince themselves of. This is highly exaggerated. And it's creating a great deal of resentment by basketball fans, not just fans of this franchise. Basketball fans who want this nonsense to end and simply want the league back. And I'm not even talking about reverting back to the past. I'm just talking about being a legitimate situation where you have to earn your keep. It don't matter who you are. You have to earn your keep. And this young man, to me, is clearly being exploited. I don't believe that he believes that he belongs. He knows in his heart that he doesn't belong. We all know in our heart if something truly applies. We know if we're qualified for certain things or opportunities. We know it deep down in our heart. And you can tell by his actions. Now he's trying to play up to the role. But the reality is what's being exhibited out there on the basketball court. See, you cannot disrespect the game. You cannot disrespect the history of the game. You cannot disrespect other young men who have given their all to pursue their dream in playing professional basketball. People that will never know that this in the G League level. People that will never know. But you know that there are plenty of players out there who's fighting tooth and nail to achieve their dream. Now, as to whether they'll do it or not, that remains to be seen. But they're putting forth the effort. And for those type of players to get undermined and undercut because a certain individual is trying to up the ante and placate to his ego, where a franchise is venturing into uncharted waters and eventually will fall over the cliff. And this is why, one of the main reasons why no significant free agent this offseason signed a contract to play for this franchise. They want no parts of it, man. So what I want to get to briefly is everything is coming full circle. And I think about the real young core, the Julius Randles, the Jordan Clarksons, the Larry Nance Jr.'s, the Brandon Ingrams, the Ivica Zubats, the Lonzo Balls, the Josh Harts, the Kyle Kuzmas, the Thomas Bryants, the Zavi Mikhailiks, even the Alex Caruso, who was brought up from the G League. The real young core who's supposed to be our future, who wore that uniform with pride and gave 150% effort. And as I always like to highlight, you look at Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, they was drafted to an ideal situation. They was drafted by a team that was already good, a playoff level team, which is there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not knocking it off. But they didn't have to come in right away. They wasn't thrown to the wolves. They was allowed to develop at their own rate on a year-by-year basis. They played as teammates for 7 years, and they finally broke through and won a championship together for the Boston Celtics. Our young core was thrown to the wolves. They had no anchor, no veteran presence on the team. They had to learn on the fly. We never seen a team starting over featuring young players that was required to do that. Even Nikola Jokic, had an anchor when he first came into NBA. Because matter of fact, the starting center at the time was, and I forgot about that, was Jusuf Nurkic. So Jokic was able to learn from him, even if it was for maybe a season or two before he was ready to establish himself as a player. Until eventually he became what he became. 3-time league MVP. Down there in Phoenix, DeAndre Ayton, Devin Booker, Mikal Bridges and the like. They was able to learn under Chris Paul. As soon as you add Chris Paul, boom, they go to the finals. Our young core had to learn on the fly in the Western Conference when Golden State was on top in their prime with KD. Houston winning 65 games with MVP James Harden and Chris Paul as teammates, right? San Antonio Spurs still had Kawhi Leonard, right? Many say was becoming the best two-way player in the league. They had LaMarcus Aldridge. They had players of that ilk on their team. Denver. Utah was on the come up with Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert and the like. And I'm sure behind closed doors, because the original young core of the Los Angeles Lakers, they still maintain a closeness to this day. They still maintain a bond. And I'm sure they contact each other recently, over the past a couple of months since the Lakers drafted his man's son. I'm referring to Bronny James. I will not refer to his father's name. I know they must be calling each other and say, man, they gave up on us for this? Because people out there can say, well, the young could never won anything all day long. But the fact of the matter is, they can assume all they want to, but the fact of the matter is, we'll never know. It's going to be one of the greatest mysteries in sports history. They was broken up before its time. They was scattered all across the NBA landscape. Most of those young men were traded or had to sign with teams that had been struggling before they got there. Randall went to a Knicks team that hadn't been to the playoffs since like 2014, 2015. He got there in 2020. So it's been 5-6 years. And he led them to the playoffs in 2021. Ingram and Lonzo and Hart was traded to a team whose superstar franchise player of the past 7 seasons asked to be traded on a whim through nefarious means. So they had to follow that. Jordan Clarkson, Larry Nance Jr., was traded to the Ida Hurricanes' original team in Cleveland. He leaves Cleveland as a superstar player. The team collapses. Coach is fired. So they had to be saying to themselves, man, they gave us up. They gave up on us for this. A young man who knows deep down he don't belong in the league. It's going to create a great deal of backlash, believe me. It's going to create a great deal of backlash. All this love he getting right now, man, that's going to dissipate over time and quickly. And whatever profit that they make out of this, it'll last for about a week. It'll last for about a week, and that novelty will wear off. Just like that at a snap of a finger, guaranteed, because it's not real. This is not Ken Griffey Sr. and Ken Griffey Jr. When they played together on the field together on the same team back in I think that was 1989. Ken Griffey was a phenom playing a AAA baseball, and they brought him up and they called him up to the majors at the age of 17. He was a phenom. Left-handed batter. He was a Gold Glover. He can hit home runs. He can hit for average. He had the whole package. He was like his generation's Willie Mays, cranking out 40-some home runs a year. You see what I'm saying? Multiple Gold Glove winner at his position. That was a phenom, and his father is a darn good player throughout his career too. Average about 280 batting average. That was real. That was magical. That was inspirational. That brought a tear to the eye. That was genuine, man. This is not genuine. Because that man's son does not belong in the NBA. Everybody knows it, man. But it's a lot of narratives that people are trying to legitimize, and it's a lot of self-serving needs and all of this, man. But what's being lost out of this, man, is that a franchise is crumbling right before everybody's eyes. And there's so many people that want to tune in, not just for the basketball perspective, but for the anticipated train wreck that is about to come. And as a lifelong fan of this team, man, it's heartbreaking to realize that's why most people want to tune in and watch the Lakers, man. And see, what adds more salt to the wound is this wouldn't have been the case if the franchise would have stuck with the plan and continue to back and develop the real young core. We wouldn't be going through this nonsense. And a rookie like Dalton Knecht would be getting the media coverage that he deserves for a player drafted in the first round and entering the league highly talented. He got to play second fiddle to a young man that don't belong in the NBA. Well, if we had our real team and we draft a player of Dalton Knecht's caliber, the coverage would be legitimate and it would be worthy of. See, this is an entire fiasco, man. And like I said, I have not connected with anything that the franchise been led to do since all this started in summer 2018. I feel nothing but apathy, knowing how all this gonna end up. To watch your players get kicked out the door, man, and then 6 years later they draft a young man, because he's a young man now. He ain't no kid no more. He a young man because I believe he just turned 20, so he on the verge of full-fledged adulthood. He averaged 4 points a game in college. Randall was averaging 15, 16, maybe 17 in college. B.I. was averaging 16 in college. B.I. averaged the same points per game in college that Jason Tatum did, and they both went to the same school. I believe Ingram was a year ahead of Jason Tatum. But nonetheless, they essentially played a similar position. Well, Tatum is a little taller than Ingram, but they both average around 16, 17 a game. That's real college basketball production, especially from the wing position. He averaged 4 points a game in college. And this is not to talk about him because I think he's being pushed to do all this. This is not blaming him at all. It's not about calling him out. It's about what he's being led to do. And I'm telling you what's going to happen is when this so-called history is made, you're going to hear all these prognosticators and talking heads say, oh, man, that guy, I'm talking about the high hurricane, he was able to achieve what Michael Jordan couldn't do. He couldn't get his sons in the league. His sons weren't good enough to be in the league. But guess what? Michael Jordan wouldn't disrespect himself like that. He wouldn't disrespect his sons like that and put them in a position that that wasn't earned. You see, his sons played basketball in college, man. They got that desire to play basketball. They pursued, they tried it. And Michael Jordan, matter of fact, he didn't really want his sons to play basketball because he understood the pressure they would be under to try to live up to the name. And when he attended their games, whether it was in high school and college, you didn't even know Michael Jordan was there. He was sitting way in the back at the top seats. He was so inconspicuous, you didn't even know he was there. And he was Michael Jordan. So they're gonna sit there and they're gonna try to, add something to their argument of that, man, the eye of the hurricane being the GOAT. But Michael Jordan would disrespect the game like that. No basketball player back then would even think about doing something like that if their son wasn't good enough. Because matter of fact, the media would call it out. See, a lot of this is because media coverage of the NBA, the bar has been lowered to such a degree where anything goes. Anything goes to create a narrative, to create a buzz, to try to elevate their guy. But it's at the expense of the game. That's how you know they really don't truly love the NBA. Now, the NBA, for the people who have been given a platform to talk about the NBA, has given them help build their name up. And we all have access to information now. We can go online, Google, pull up a player's name, stats, to create a narrative. That don't mean that you love the game. That just means a lot of people were exploiting the situation. And the way the Lakers have been exploited these past 6 years, man, it's heartbreaking. Because once all this ends, man, once that man finally retire, lead the game, whatever you want to call it, AD will be gone. This franchise will be left with nothing, man, but rubble. That's where it's all headed. Everybody gonna flee. They push for all this nonsense to happen. And who's gonna be left, man, to represent? It's gonna be the fans that want to know part of this nonsense, dog. That's who's gonna be left to represent. I guarantee it. Because I understand and respect competition and respect the history of this game. And understand the history of this franchise, but made it great. And I'm not the only one. I rap to fellow Laker fans all the time, man, who want no parts of this. And the handwriting is on the wall. Handwriting is on the wall. But if this was the 80s, if this was the let's just say any year after the NBA-ABA merger, let's just say that. Well, I'll include the 60s too. But I'm going to just focus on, since the merger took place in 1976. There's no other year or decade where the sports media covering the NBA would even push for something like this. Because they respected the league and tried to present it and elevate it to the best of its potential. You see what I'm saying? But the coverage of the league, man, and these narratives and the agenda has led the bar to be lowered to such a degree, man, to where anything goes, man. And his franchise will take a major hit because of it, man. And who's going to get the blame? The convenient scapegoats. It's going to be the owner. It's going to be the GM. Their mistake was agreeing to bring this man to the team. That was the mistake. The 2 years prior, in 2017 and 2018, everything was positive. The energy was infectious. There was like just mountains of optimism awaiting for the future, man. It was so much great energy permeating throughout the organization. Now you got a head coach who has no experience at this level. But Luke Walton got canned and got sacrificed. And he had coaching pedigree as an assistant with the Golden State Warriors. You see what I'm saying? You see how backwards all this is? And this is backwards. This is backwards. So in closing, this is not about attacking this man's son. I feel terrible for him. Because when the tide turns, man, and when they turn on him, dog, it's going to be ugly. Because someone's going to have to be the scapegoat. When the plan never works associated with this guy, the Ida Hurricane, someone got to take the hit, and someone is going to take the hit. So imagine a young man just turned 20 years old, becoming a scapegoat for something that he's not even responsible for, man. It is going to trickle down to the franchise. They will get the blame, and it's going to be, it's beyond a circus at this point. It's beyond a circus. It's beyond a circus. What did Jerry West call it? The late, great Jerry West? I'm going to leave it with that. I don't even want to say the word. I guess people can look it up if they want to. But what Jerry West referred to the situation 6 years ago, that's exactly how it's turned out to be. So I just wanted to bring that up, man. But I know the real young core, I know they're saying to themselves, man, they gave us up for this. I know they doing it. I know they done said it. So like I said, when all this started, man, all the excitement, man, it just vanished. It vanished on that day for me. It just vanished. The same drama, need more help, need a super team, a stacked deck, draft picks gonna be siphoned off, young talent gonna be sacrificed. And that's exactly what happened, man. Coaches gonna be fired left and right. I can give you the timeline. I know Luke Walton wasn't going to last no more than a year. He was gone after that first year. They bring in Frank Vogel. I say he ain't going to last no more than 3 years. This is not a permanent venture. That's what I'm trying to say. He lasted 3 years on the dot. They originally signed to a 3-year deal. Then they extended him after the bubble. Then he got fired in year 3. Darvin Ham got signed to a 4-year deal. I said he ain't going to last no more than 2 years. He was gone in 2 years. No established head coach wants this job. So they bring in this guy, J.J. Redick, zero coaching experience at this level, even as a position coach. I don't see it last no more, a year and a half tops. So that's where we at. So I just want to drop that real quick. Until next time, JB for BTB. BTB, behind the bench.